Hello, this is Victor here again at restoreyourmercedes.com. This is the video for Kyle in Georgia. Okay, Kyle, so basically I went through the harness and areas that I have issues with. I repaired broken wires, I repaired, and let's go over the overall harness and some plugs that I just want to note where they go, just in case, from what I remember, and before memory fades, so right now it's fresh, so I can, just because I was checking out things. Okay, so first things first, the main box here, obviously you know where all of this stuff goes. This floats, there are plugs underneath, whatnot. This plug was broken when I got it right here, but it is not critical, because once you put the metal box back in the casing, it's going to push it down and it will remain in position. No problems there. All of they should move like this, because when you put the box back on, then obviously it might not go exactly straight down, so that's why they have a little movement. And the little tabs on aluminum box, the upper casing, you will see that they will line up into these openings here, and will bring these connectors down and tight. So that's good. Most important thing is the actual edge did not break, so the metal pin can still hold it down from the upper casing. All right, so now I laid down the wires to the best of my ability, the way they should be really going in the car. Obviously they were removed and zip ties were moved and whatnot, so it is what it is. But this is pretty much where they should be, give or take. There's always going to be a little bit of a slack here and there, so that's why that's not critical. But I just put them up the way that I feel like they should be. The diagnostic plug will be just hanging around. Sometimes I don't even see a bracket for this one, so that's probably going to be just laying there somewhere along with all the other wires, usually near ground somewhere, but that's not critical. This is like a blinker for engine controls, so I never use it. All right, so these are the grounds here. These are the ones that are near computer box, so I just put them together with the zip tie, because I wrapped these two, because this is the grounds for mass airflow sensors. All the grounds are fine there. It's just that two wires I had to solder to these, so you don't see brown wires, so that's why I just put them together. But they will not reach anywhere but that area where that ground bolt is. All right, so that's fine. Usually these wires are sort of together. I didn't really want to put them together. If you want to put like a electrical tape over them, because you see there was the line here for electrical tape, but since I rewrapped them, I want to give you a little bit of room so you can move them around while you're installing it back. There was a little cut here. I just put electrical tape over, except for friction tape, because electrical tape fuses better to the outer shields versus friction tape. Friction tape is made to keep wires together. That's what it does. That's its job. So a bunch of areas had to be rewrapped because they were all loose and the wires are all over the place, so whatnot. No good. Now the intake air temperature sensor, that's the longest one, so I just put the friction tape over it, except instead of that hard insulation, I left the softer portion intact, but where it gets hot, this is where it gets stiff, so that's the area where I actually put in friction tape on that. This plug was broken, so I double check on schematic diagrams. I put new plug on. This is the one for air pump clutch, so this one usually sits down lower, and air pump wire feeds into it. It has its own little kind of connector there. Now these two, these appear to me, this seemed to be the evap, not evap, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's the evap system from the gas tank. One of the sides, there's a switchover valve that clicks. This one seemed to be the upshift, second gear upshift delay actuator. There's like a vacuum actuator to connect the green and black vacuum hoses, if I remember correctly, go to that valve. It sits usually like right like in this area, right exactly here. Actually, here's the computer box in the car, and passes that little firewall here. It usually sits right on that firewall right there. So that's that valve. Moving along, these two are switchover valves. This one is for the further out one. This one should be for air pump one-way valve. It's a vacuum actuator, so air pump comes on and then the valve opens to feed air into the exhaust manifold. So that's the actuator, vacuum actuator for that valve. This one is EGR, and that sits you know, that's on the it's on the passenger side. You have two of those, so just follow them up. They can go either this way or that way, whichever way they go, but at least you know by this video which one goes where. This supposed to be for air pump, and obviously vacuum connections will go to air pump, and EGR, obviously the vacuum connector from that valve will follow to EGR, usually red silicone wire that goes to the EGR valve, so you know you don't mix them up like that. Now mass airflow was very long, so I shortened it up to the length that I feel comfortable with, because usually these things are right next to each other, so they're supposed to be close to each other. The other side I left kind of longer because I wasn't sure, I didn't have reference point. So this one I did, so that's why I left it like that. So this side is all wrapped up. Moving along here, I just wrapped up a little bit of area over here. This is the portion that goes inside the vehicle. You obviously will know where these go. I just don't remember. I mean, I don't even, you know, I don't know where they actually go, because I usually never remove these harnesses. I work on them when I have the whole car. But obviously, you see the wires, they have their own openings, the sizes, so you should be fine. Look at them, they're all different openings. And this is obviously ground, because you see brown cables there. So under the dashboard there, you will know where these go. They will have its own proprietary bolt size, so you'll be all right. And obviously the lens, these are all original, not touched, because inside they don't go bad. And this thing is some sort of like, it looks like a, to be honest with you, it looks like a seat, like it's like a seat connector in a way, I don't know, but obviously the length will tell you where it goes. I rewrapped them too. Okay, moving along. These areas, they were pretty much original. I had good reference points on these, so that's a good news. Again, all of these basically will remain, except for that portion. These are your oxygens. These will remain outside of the car, like in the area where all the computers are, because you got your diagnostic module, you have your main engine control, main engine wiring harness, injector harness plugs in here. And the little chewed up cable here in the previous video, you saw how I pointed it out. I rewired it because it was chewed up. This is the a little plug that will be somewhere like around there somewhere. That's for the this is of the coolant fan, like a blower for all computers. It's like it's gonna have a little connection hose, some other connector, whatnot. This is speed sensor, and that most likely will go to one of the power distribution terminals. There's going to be a little power distribution in this area somewhere. Well, I'm all scaling it to the vehicle, so it's going to be like right there. There's going to be like a cover. You flip the cover, you're going to have all these electrical main positives. This goes to one of them. Don't mix them up. I don't know which one you took it from, but you know, that's where they go. Same goes for this one. Most likely it goes there, because there is really nothing else in this area where you would have a stud where you have different terminals and different eyelid connectors like this to connect to. So that is basically my take on that. This goes inside the car. It moves a little bit up and down, like forward or backwards, so you can get that moved. Now in this area, remember, there was a little bit of the wire damages here, but they were only outer shields, so I taped the wires inside and I taped them over on the outside just to keep them together. Again, electrical tape works better on the outer shields, especially smooth like this, so that's why I wrapped it with electrical tape. These are These were also rewrapped because they were very gluey, so I just rewrapped it for the oxygen sensor plugs. I did double check continuity, and continuity is fine. To proper pins on the computers here. I did same thing for mass airflows because I worked on these, so all the plugs are right on point. Each and every one goes to its right proper pin, so we're good here. All right, let's move along, move this out the way. All right, so now the next portion. Okay, so coming down this way, I'm gonna have to shift this whole harness over a little bit because it's so long that it's hard for me to encompass everything into one frame. Okay, so basically these two go alongside the firewall. Again, I'm scaling it to the car. Here's your wiper assembly. You got your HVAC blower here, so they go pass down right in front of the blower assembly, and they end up in the area where fuse box is. So obviously you have this portion going directly into the fuse box. You got some relays here, obviously some plugs. One of the relays here was for air pump and switchover valve. They're on the same circuit. I did check it. It's pin number 1, and it goes straight to pin number 1. So we're in this department, this one right here, because again I was working with those plugs, so I need to confirm, and it confirms that everything is fine there. This goes straight into your fuse box on the passengers, on the driver's side now at this point. Now these ones go to brakes. This probably goes to the ASR pre-charge pump. It's under the brake booster, under the caliper, and this one goes to another. When does this one go actually? But in any event, it's in that vicinity. You cannot miss it. There's two of them there, so you're gonna plug it in that area, because you see they're right exactly close to each other. This is where brake booster, under brake booster area, I would rather say, not above brake booster, but under the master cylinder. This is where they go. You can't mix them because, well, actually you can. Okay, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, that actually I never thought of. But this seemed to be a pre-charge pump plug. Okay. Well, you see how it is, because they're pretty much molded. Just you cannot mix them up, I'm sure, because this goes up, that one goes sideways. So you'll know which one is where. This one goes out on top a little bit. This is a speed sensor wire for the driver's side front wheel. Moving along. So okay, so here are our junction points. This is what gets a little interesting, because all of these I did not have any kind of reference points. They were just like all out. So I again made them loose, so you have a little flexibility in terms of laying this harness down the way you want. So here, obviously this is your throttle body plug. It goes, and it is attached. There's like a little plastic clip on the driver's side, so it sits on top. The ABS pump itself, that's the plug for ABS pump. Nothing to see here, so we can move this out. Now we have this area here. This is like this bunch of wires here, and they're like all over. But I mean, they're not difficult really. So you do have these wires here. These are ignition modules. You have, this is another switchover valve for the evap, for the gas tank fumes. You got camshaft plugs over here. You will have other, the other ends will come from camshafts. So you'll just plug them in here. There are also numbers on them. Let's see if I remember correctly. These should be numbers. If you will have troubles with this, let me know. I'm gonna double check on the schematics which ones go where, because obviously there are two cams and there are two ignition modules. So if you lay it down the way it lays down, you should be fine. But again, you can see that this one doesn't have a pin. And let's see. Okay, so these two together with white stripe, and without white stripe, these are together. Okay, the reason being is because you see the keys are different. These two, So that makes me think that these two goes to one of the ignition modules, these goes to another. Obviously, ignition modules, you cannot feed these wires to the next one because they will, plain and simple, will not make it. So that is a good thing. So you can't really mix them up. With the cams I don't really see. There used to be numbers on them. I'm sure there used to be. Well, anyway, if you have any issues, we can follow them up. If you have good reference point on the vehicle, because you see one is longer than the other, then you'll be just fine. All right, the evap valve sits on top. It actually clicks into the air box, air filter box. It has a little clippy, like it just sits on it. So you plug this into the switchover valve, and you got this plug right here, the new one, and you got mass airflow sensor. I left this longer, but to about the area where the length that I feel like it should be. This goes to the EGR EGR valve, switchover valve. It's a vacuum valve, so that one goes to the EGR. There's only one on the driver's side, and obviously mass airflow sensor is right next to that EGR. Right above it, EGR is on the intake manifold, and this one is really close, and that's about the length of the wire that's supposed to be there. And I also covered up, I should have put electrical tape here, but I really didn't want to have electrical tape in the proximity of connectors because it usually starts leaking a little bit, so it's a little nasty. So those areas where I put electrical tape, they're all away. They're far away. Nobody will ever touch it. Nobody gets to it. These are close, so you can actually see it leaking. So that's why I just left it with cloth tape. But further down the line, we have some electrical tape that I put here to keep wires together. Now, the reason being is because there are many loose wires here, and they're like all over the place. So let's just go on. So see, these two together I put in as the ignition coil, one of the ignition coils. If you feel like you need to have a little extra length, you can cut the tape and rearrange it the way you want if you need to, but I doubt that you would need to do such a thing. Now, intake air temperature sensor, this one is rewired. I just put in new wires and soldered them in and wrapped it up. So this one is like, whatever it's gonna have to go, it's gonna go on top of the it's in front of the air duct. It's installed in the air duct right in front of the air cleaner box. Okay, now next, this is your coolant fan resistor. Of course, you got grounds here. Okay, that is usually near ignition coil, in that vicinity of the ignition coil. So you got these, I don't remember, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna lie. Either this is low pressure for the AC, or this one is low pressure for the AC. So, but if you don't know where to put them, just let me know. I'll find you which one goes where. But it's not a big deal, really. That's not the deal breaker. So you got the coolant fan, of course. You got ignition coil here, the second one right here, and you have your grounds here. Okay, most likely they will probably be together with this one. Well, you'll know better once you lay it down. And the AC compressor, it's still nasty, but if you're leaking oil, you'll be leaking oil. Maybe I'll just wipe it down real quick. Okay, so this was a long video in terms of where everything goes. It's quite a harness here. It's a long harness, and it's very difficult to really make a mistake where all these wires go. They're all written up and all that stuff. Let's say, for example, if these are written, you got written reference numbers for relays, so if anything, you can always find reference where these relays go. Obviously, these kind of connectors, you will see the other end of the connector will have exactly this amount of pins, and Mercedes usually never have same exact amount of pins on two connectors alike, so they're always different. So this is basically where we are. Yes, it was a lengthy process. It took me many hours to go through this because, again, of the sheer size of this unit, but it's all ready to go. It's all set and done. I do not have any issues with this harness anymore. Yes, I had to pretty much do it on the floor. I had to do it a little bit on the bench too, just the fine soldering. for the computers, but the rest of it was on the floor. So it's very unfortunate to do this, because you know, you can't, if you lay it on the, you need like a huge workbench and you move it, toss it around, because you have to work it in sections. You can't just like unwrap everything and then it's going to be the end of it. So this is basically all. Yes, I know it's a long video, but I want to cover it because this is a very big long harness, and not to make any mistake during the installation. That's why I made this long. Alright, so this is all for me. This is Victor at RestoreYourMercedes.com, and this video was for Kyle in Georgia. This is the Mercedes 600 SL engine harness body mounted. That's the technical name. I don't see any part numbers anymore on it, but you get the idea. Alright, thank you for watching.